Let there be light, and there was light. Okay, the famous words of the said God, Mother Eve from the Holy Bible. Of course, we are talking about the King James Holy Bible. I think that would probably be in all of the Bibles anyway, because these are the very first words of Mother Eve. Of course, of the 8 entries that Mother Eve had spoken in Genesis chapter 1. Of course, I do have a list of them. These would be the pinnacle, we could say the pillars of all the spells that had happened. I call them spells, really. To say, let there be light, and there was light. That was a spell. Yes, of course. So that was the very first word of Genesis chapter 1 and verse 3. And there was light. Okay. Now that, of course, it's really, so many thoughts come to mind on this. It's like the pregnant mother who says, you know, it's time to have the baby. It's time to buy the crib. It's time, you know, because she knows all what is happening from within her. She knows what is happening. She knows how far gone she is, or when she had her last period or whatever it is. Even if we do go to the doctors now, this is being all part of the game that the mother have now taught her children to play, we could say. And that's why it is called role play, you know. We take we play those roles because that's what mothers start teaching. She begins to teach us those games, so we play out those roles, and she allows us to play those roles until it seemed like she forgets that she had any part of it, because we have played the roles out so well. And of course, it is her way of teaching us how to be what seemed like independent of her, but really we are not. And now she calls us back home. She really is saying to us, now, I want you to come home, come back to the source, come back and learn and reconnect, remember. It's all reflect, repent. This is why the message of Christ would have been about repentance. It's all these references that we are required to make. So that's what Mother Eve is about. Now, of course, with all this light, let there be light. This is the memory of Mother Eve within us now, is really now saying, remember that I am in all things, the I am that I am, the same words or name that was given to Moses as for God. And that is Mother Eve, because we have done the numerical value for this. And just in case you are new to this channel, of course, we will go over this and do those things. But it's all about, in this presentation, is just really to remind people about being conscious of how the I am that I am, or the said God, is really resonating at the tip of our tongues in everything we do, think and say. Mother Eve is right there, and she wants us to acknowledge that, be conscious of it. So the I am. Okay, I think I can afford to take all these off now. Okay, get a pen that really writes well. So we are talking about the said God, Mother Eve. SCID. The said God equals 5. We've done this before. So the word said is 15, which is 6. and God is 8, and when we add these together is 14. So 1 plus 4 equals 5. So we are talking about 5. We have seen how the Kundalini is 5, Christ is 5, Mother Eve is 5, the melanin, which is a very interesting word that I think is important for all of us to become very acquainted with, is that that also is 5. Now, what I found out as well, that the melanin, of course, which is predominantly in black people, of course, or more in black people, we should say, is that it is that which is it is like Eve. It is really Eve. And that's the parallel I was making in understanding what it is, that all forms of life comes from that. So it is that which was which exists before any event takes place. So the melanin in itself, which is that dark, we could say, just like the Eve with here we say about evening. So this is just like the darkness of the waters in Genesis. It's like there was darkness upon the face of the deep. We are talking about Eve right there. That's the waters. And of course, that is melanin as well. So we see that there is a strong parallel there. Now, when I say about the melanin is, well, I'm being factual according to scientific studies, which of course I remember when I was at university, it was I came across the melanin and felt, actually, I remember walking out of the class and feeling somewhat depleted, because it was construed to be a pigmentation or a malfunction. And now to learn that it is something that is very important to our development. This is where all forms of life come from. But it seemed like it was something to shun, and in those days, or it wasn't made to seem exactly for what it is. And that is the same thing I am talking about with Mother Eve in the Garden of Eden, or in the scriptures. We are not taught to embrace the serpent as that significant form of wisdom that we are part of, that which is present within us. So for all forms of life to had come out or to become, it was through that wisdom. We are told that the earth was created through wisdom, and through wisdom God created the earth. And so we have also learned that the serpent was the wisest of all creatures. And yet, on the other hand, we have learned to be fearful of that wisdom, and yet ask that we seek that wisdom. So we have been in the dichotomy of fear and yet something that we should endeavor, and not knowing whether we should look left or right. And that is what we have been in, that kind of dilemma, instead of really being taught, well, this is something that we have to, or it's important that we discover Mother Eve within us, or the serpent within us, to activate that life form, the gift of life, not just existence. We are talking about the gift of life, the wisdom, knowing when to make a right decision or right choice, or when to go somewhere or do something, and that we are doing and thinking with a divine guidance and wisdom. So these are the things that I feel is very important for us to acknowledge. Just as there are people, as I say, talking about the melanin. Now my speciality I am choosing here is more about the scriptures, because I have been indoctrinated in a scripture that have served me up until a certain point, and not to disregard that scripture altogether, because I have, through experience of activating my Kundalini, I come to realize that the less judgment you make of something in the sense of good and bad, you are allowing yourself the liberty to really find what would seem as the goodness, because then you are at a position to make more informed choices or right choices for yourself without going through the good and bad aspect of something. So when I came to understand that the less judgment I make of something is that I could find a gem in that very thing that could serve me very well. So that's why I specialize, we could say, in the scriptures, and particularly the book of Genesis, because I believe Genesis in itself has all the answers that we need, because it's the start of the of our Exodus, we could say. Okay, so basically, of course, I'd also make reference to King James Version. Now, these are another words. In fact, it reminds me that I had been talking about words that we use in regards to Mother Eve, but not pay full attention to what we are saying and how we are actually calling on Mother Eve without being conscious of it and of that we are doing that. That is. So basically, I have done a presentation on that, but I would like to go over that again, because it just seems like something that needs to be emphasized, in that when we say words like I said, King James, for instance, the word king 2 equals 5. And so it's 2959. Sorry. G is 7 here. So when we add these together, for instance, this is 11, 18, that would be 23. So king equals 23. 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, these are things that I am thinking that it's so important that we pay attention to the magnitude of the words, numerically speaking. So king is 5 and queen is 8. I'll just trust me on that one. When we add these together, king and queen would give us 13. Now, yes, would be 13. Now, of course, 13 is the number that I have been saying that creates the bond. That's where things are set in number 13. 13 is like 8. We could say it's like 8. It is because it's got that bond. In fact, it is 8 because when we do the numerical value for the word 8, E-I-G-H-T, this is 5, 9, 7, 8, 2. When we add these up, this is 10, this is 26, plus 5 would be 31. 3 plus 1, so we can see 3 plus 1 is 4, just like 1 plus 3 is also 4. So 13 is the reverse to 31. Now, Why I am bringing this up here and showing the same kind of correlation here is that 13 or 4, to be more precise, acts as the pillar to anything, building a house, or for the 4 seasons, or the 4 points, our news, and everything really comes out from our news, our north, south, east, and west. And of course, this is where, as I say in the sacrifice template, we could see, for instance, here, the news is really in the middle of the numbers from 1 to 9 on our sacrifice template. In case you are new to this is the depiction of Mother Eve and the sacrifice template that has showed that has proven very robust in helping us to make sense of who we are, where we're at this moment. In fact, it is through this template that we have now nearly coming into a year of understanding more about ourselves. So we have used this template, and as I say, it's quite robust. Now, talking about our north, south, east, and west, I think that tells us everything. So if you stand in front of the mirror and you stretch your arms out, of course, you will see your north, south, east, and west. You can look at somebody else, and if you don't want to look at yourself, you will see that we have those 4 points, like it were the cross. And so that's what we are talking about. Now, the number 8 as well, which is the symbol of infinity, of course, it is that number that sets. It's like, as I say, it set things. It's like a pattern. It's like a template. And so it really is one and the same with 4. This is where we are becoming to, we are getting to understand the numbers more and seeing them more as functions and not just about how much change is given when you purchase something from the store or the shop. It is telling us more about our makeup. It is telling us more about our functions. So when you see 4, for instance, you know there are 4 points to your room or 4 corners to your house. Of course, there are fancy houses with whatever different shapes, but we are talking about the general structures of things. We know it's 4. We have 4 fingers to each hand. Of course, that's not including our thumb. And so there we can see we are talking about 4s, how 4 plays out in our makeup. And 8, as we say, of course, we are looking at this. So this 4 is really doing the same function as though they were the 2 sets of 4s together now, or they mirroring each other. So we could see how 8 is really a function of not just mirroring 4, it is also not just being a set, but it's also mirroring 4 as it were 2 4s as well. So that's how we can see how the functions are. Now we could also say that with 8, because it's like a pattern, it's that symbol of infinity. To be able to do anything else, this is where we are required to break away. We are required to think out of the box, so to speak. I'm just thinking that the word box perhaps also equals 8 or 10. Let's just see. BOX. This is 6, 6, 2. So this is 12, 13, 14. That's interesting because 14, of course. Now that makes sense. We have ways of looking at this. So the box is 14 and it's 2 7s. So there we have 1 7 and there we have the other 7. And that's the box. This is what we have learned when we take time to understand how they have given us certain things here. So this is a part of the box, which is 7. and 7. So they have not told us that you only need to see things from one point. This is what thinking out of the box is. And there we are. So number 5, in actual fact, is the box. It is the key. That's number 5, which is Mother Eve. So Mother Eve is the key, and Mother Eve is open, and Mother Eve is lock, and Mother Eve is anchor, and Mother Eve is a melanin. Mother Eve is pineal gland. Mother Eve is the Christ spirit. There are so many things that we can attribute Mother Eve to. So it's there we see its beginning and end. Mother Eve is actually beginning and end. And when we add these two words together, we have done beginning quite a lot. So beginning equals 9 and end equals 5. And when we add these together, that gives us 14. Of course, 1 plus 4 is 5. And of course, when we do Eve, which is 14 here, 5 plus 5 and 4 is 14. Of course, we can see that Mother Eve is beginning and end. So when we read the scriptures and we hear about the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, we are talking about Mother Eve. We are talking about the serpent. The serpent, of course, we have done this several times, and not that we are complaining. It is a pleasure to do this, but we are doing it because we really want to get it out there, to get people to understand that the serpent is very present. It is really the same word, because when it is present, we are dealing with the beginning and the end all at once. There's what is happening right there. And that's what it was about in the Garden of Eden. Of course, Eden is 10. Okay. Now, as I say, it's the words that we use, like words like every, or words like even. We use those words all the time. Words like event, there we are, even an event, or everything, or everyone, or whomsoever, or whatsoever, or wherever. We are using those words all the time, and I really would like us to be mindful of those words when we use them, that we are actually anchoring on Mother Eve when we use those words. Even words like moved, which is the first act that happened. When it says, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the earth, we are talking about Mother Eve right there, because that word move, M-O-V-E-D, here, that V-E is really meaning like Eve right there. It's so, these are words that is important for us to be mindful that we are talking everything we are saying. In fact, whenever it comes to speech, we are talking about Mother Eve, because the first spoken words were of Mother Eve. Now we have the story about the serpent talking in the garden, but we know this is all metaphoric. It's a metaphor that is to teach us the wisdom that lies within us. It's the serpent that is coiled up, or down, if you like, in the base of the spine, and that is seeking to be realized when we become conscious, when we become or we are prepared to be conscious of its existence within us. We have to desire that existence within us. It's like desiring the eating of the fruit. It's like desiring to knowledge, desiring wisdom. This is why we are asked to seek wisdom and seek it and find it and treasure it and not let it go. So these are the things I just felt I needed to really emphasize this point. And in emphasizing this point, let's see if I can get a few more words to remind us about the presence of Mother Eve in us. Now, Mother Eve is the mouth as well. The mouth equals 5. The uterus equals 5. Now, I like the word, the US at the end of uterus. And I think that word is very, let's look at this word, because it's a powerful word. And it, of course, reminds me of the USA as well. The UTERUS, and which reminds me of Uranus is going to be entering the house, or the second house of Taurus in the zodiac sign, the second house. And of course, Taurus, Uranus. So this is where I am getting a strong feeling that Mother Eve is even now really reminding us of that 8th entrance that she has made in her speech, which is the one she's asking us to get ready for. So as I said, we were talking about Uranus would be entering Taurus, TAURUS, and we can see, I was just looking at the word uterus, which is 5 as well. So Uranus is 22, I have done this, and Taurus is 10, of course, 2 5s here as well. And if we do add these together, which equals 4 for Uranus, that would give us 6 in the sense of doing FOUR. When we do this, it equals 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. So, of course, 6 comes back to the serpent, which is where we started with, because this is where the serpent is reminding us that we are number 6. We are number 6. So 4 is foundation of that which we are. Now back to uterus. Let's just do this. 3, 2, 5, 9, 3, 1. When we add this together, for instance, this is 13, 18, 19, 23. That's 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, so this gives us 5. And Uranus, which is like some say Uran, I say Uranus, sorry, this is meant to be an N. Okay, so here we have 3, 9, 1, 5, 3, 1. Okay, so this is 4, 9, 10, and that would be 28, 29, 30, 31. So I've got 31 here, which is also 4. So perhaps it's the way I counted this before, but it's yeah, 31 I think makes sense, and that is 4. Okay, so it depends on how the style of counting I had done before. Perhaps I had broken it down before. Okay, so we have us here, and we have us in Taurus. Now, the point why I brought this up, the us here, I think this has been very, this is divinely guided right now by Mother Eve wanting us to make note of this. In her 8 entrance, in her 8 entries, her 8 entries on the in Genesis, where the first is let there be light, and the second was let the waters let the waters, I don't quite remember all of it now, or be divided, or let the waters from the waters be divided, or let there be a firmament. There is let there be light again, and let there be a firmament, this one. And there is let the waters, this would be where the waters would be divided, and let the earth bring forth great creatures after its kind and their kind, and so on. But this is the one Mother Eve really is trying to get us again to be, this is the us here. Mother Eve is wanting us to be ready to be part of the new man, or the new species, or the new creature. This is where, by changing our minds and our actions in the sense of becoming better individuals, we are becoming part of the new creator. We are becoming part of the new creator in this sense. This is where, and it's perhaps no wonder where we see that there was the God who went, or the God who made man in his own image and likeness, which was Adam actually. Mother Eve has confirmed in the way that, because every time I see the word made, I had been seeing the word Adam for some reason. Of course, there is one M-A-D-E and A-D-A-M, so meaning the E is changed to an A. And then I felt that Adam and made was the same. And so we have seen again that going by further on in the scriptures, we could see the correlation of whether Adam was without a wife, and so on. So basically, that the point I really want to draw on here is, this is where Mother Eve is inviting us to come and to learn of her, to understand how to get into that eighth dimension, or should I say fifth to eighth dimension, to get to which is here, which is the mouth, which is the uterus. We could say it's the uterus here as well. So the word uterus, as I say, is 5, and it is a mouth, and the word mouth here equals 5 as well. And we see that it is set in that sense. Now, how we had learned about numbers is that we had learned that the 8 is greater than the 5, but there we can see that the 5 is really greater than the 8, because the 5 is the key to unlocking the 8. That is what we had not really understood. So basically, to get to 9, or go back to any circle, is that we need to have the key to unlock, or to break, or to, no wonder Christ broke of the bread. No wonder Moses broke the tablet. No, there was always a breaking, or something was happening. There was another place, or was it with Ezekiel, with broken bones. And whenever we see those events take place, they are not in the setting anymore. They are not set anymore, because there is another action required at that point. So this is what Mother Eve is really beckoning us to get into. She wants us to be part of this. And here we can see with all this US, for instance, and Mother Eve is really, it's really interesting, because there's also, I mean, I'm just doing this intuitively. There's a U in here. There's another U in Uranus, and another U in Taurus as well. So it's a clear message that you are called, to um, be part of this creation, that the us creation. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. That's what Mother Eve is calling us to do. Mother Eve is calling us to learn of her ways, to uncoil, how to uncoil ourselves, uncoil the serpent that is in the root chakra, and to be activated. Of course, this is something I have done a presentation on this, and it is called Only Activate Your Kundalini If You Want to Meet with Mother Eve. And that is my experience, but there are lots of other experiences of other people on YouTube, and of course lots of literature, which I would say it's very good idea to do some research on that, in case, well, not just in case, hoping that you do want to activate your Kundalini or open your third eye, to be more specific. So of course, I really want to say much more on this, because we have more words on the Kundalini, which also equals 23, and we have the word breathe, which also equals 5. It's 32. So it's the mirror of that, meaning that it's after you have done all this, you have done the 23, and then you are mirroring the 32, which is also in direct correlation with the word Christ. This is where you are going to meet with Christ. So from the uterus, of course, being activated, you then mirror, get the mirror aspect of the uterus up to the mouth, which is also 23. Okay, so it's the mouth, or we have the word waters as well, 23, which equals 5. We have, as I said, the melanin, and the word cleanse as well. There's lots of wonderful, the word intuitive equals 5. The word infinite also equals 5. So we see that after Mother Eve teaches us how to break off the 8, the mouth itself is also infinite. That's why the mouth, number 5, is even, I would say, even more powerful than number 8. I would love to say number 8 is really more powerful, but this is, in fact, I'm going to do a presentation on this, because infinite is 50, which is number 5. And of course, we see 8 is, of course, queen, and lots of other wonderful words for 8. But the key is infinite. Infinite, yes, for number 5. Okay, so number 5 has, as I said, has the masculine and feminine aspect to it. So do join me again. I think I'm going to follow this up with the infinite word, and hopefully I can do a very short presentation on this for infinite and number 8. Yes, okay, thank you. Let there be light, and there was light. Namaste.